interesting stories that you brought here in the book together, and the way that you went about corroborating just how much of what they were telling you was true. And in most cases, it just had to be, like dealing with location. Well, how could you say that you've seen it here and you were herding sheep, for instance, at the base of Mount Ararat when there's no food or any good drinking water? And then there was the question of being able to helicopter to a certain level or elevation to be able to take these pictures. I mean, there were a lot of ways that you just kind of went about this to just verify whether what they were saying was true. But there was one particular one, Ed Davis, that you talked about, where he seemed to be one of the first, at least from all of the other ones that you were sharing in here, that really checked out. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that man was fascinating, and I'm only regret is that I never got to meet this man, because I would have validated everything that he said. He was with the Army Corps of Engineers in the Second World War, and they stationed him in Iran. At this point in the Second World War, Russia was our ally, and so we needed to help that war effort because the Germans want to come in and crush Russia and take that too. So we went in to help them along with the Brits. The Brits and the Americans basically were occupying Iran at that time. So we were bringing a lot of road work, a lot of supplies up through the Gulf. They were building roads from the Gulf straight so they could bring shipments in there, or by boat, or then they were flying in also. But they were building roads from that point right into Russia. And so Ed was with the car, like I said, Corps of Engineers, building roads, and they were building buildings and barracks and what have you. And to build roads, you had to use dynamite. And in this dynamite explosion, it shut the waterways off to the Kurdish people. Well, now, if you go back and look at the map, there's a mountain range in between Iraq and Iran, and it's called the Zagros Mountains. Well, right on the probably at the edge of the Zagros Mountains, it would be it would be western Iran, would be right there at the Zagros mountain area. That's where he was stationed. And in that mountain range were peaceful people. And he called them Lurds. But because he was a Texan and had an accent, the men who were questioning him thought he said Kurds, because that is what the people are called that live at the base of Mount Ararat. That used to be Kurdistan.
Huh.
And so what I was wondering in my head, talking to Bob Cornuke, I says, Bob, he kept calling them the Lurds, because Bob was there at that particular meeting, and he heard Ed talking. And Ed had gone through 3 lie detector tests. He said, and Bob had been a policeman, a detective, and he said, this man, I don't know where he was, but he was telling the truth. So when I got to talking to Bob about the Lurds, I said, you know what, let me check this out, because I got a funny feeling that the Lurds are just what he says that they are. They're not Kurds. So I got out my 100-year-old map, and there it was. The mountain range, there the Zagros Mountain in between Iraq and Iran was called Luristan. They were the Lurds. Ed was right. But what had happened was that the waterway had to their farms, to their crops, to the animals, to their homes had been blocked, and there was no water coming through. So when Ed's driver, who was a Lurd, told him about the situation, undercover, and he did not want it known until he was dead. He was afraid still that the army would